This week, something fundamental shifted in the relationship between artificial intelligence and the American government. In the span of 5 days, the White House drove 3 major policy actions that will reshape the AI landscape for years to come. First, OpenAI offered the United States government a 5% stake in the company, a move that would have been unthinkable even a year ago. Second, the federal government lifted restrictions on Anthropic's most powerful AI models, signaling a dramatic de-escalation in the regulatory posture toward frontier AI. And third, in the midst of a brutal heat wave, federal authorities ordered data centers to switch to backup power, pulling them partially off the electrical grid to ease strain on the system. Taken individually, each of these is a significant headline. Taken together, they represent something larger: the end of AI's unregulated frontier and the beginning of a new era in which the federal government is not just a spectator but a... The story begins at the White House, where this week President Trump announced that OpenAI had offered the federal government a 5% ownership stake in the company. This came after weeks of pressure from lawmakers, most notably Senator Bernie Sanders, who had floated a far more aggressive proposal to take a much larger slice of AI companies that benefit from publicly funded research and infrastructure. The 5% figure is being framed as a compromise, a gesture of good faith from Sam Altman and the OpenAI board, but the details of the negotiation are far from settled. Altman is reportedly in active, ongoing talks with administration officials about what form this stake would take. Would it come with voting rights? Would it come with board seats? Would it apply retroactively as OpenAI transitions from a nonprofit to a for-profit structure? These are not small questions. They go to the very heart of what it means for the government to have a financial interest in a Meanwhile, in a move that caught many in the safety community off guard, the federal government lifted its restrictions on Anthropic's most powerful AI models. For months, Anthropic had been operating under a set of voluntary commitments that limited the deployment capabilities of its frontier systems. These restrictions were put in place during a period of intense regulatory anxiety, when lawmakers and the public were demanding proof that AI companies could be trusted with increasingly powerful tools. But the political winds have shifted. The current administration is focused on competitiveness, particularly vis-a-vis China, and it views aggressive AI development as a national security imperative. The lifting of Anthropic's restrictions is being described internally as a de-escalation, a signal that the government trusts Anthropic's internal safety processes enough to let them operate at full capacity. But de-escalation is a loaded term. For critics, it means the guardrails are coming, and then there is the grid. Across the American Southwest, a punishing heat wave pushed electrical demand to near record levels this week. Data centers, those massive energy-hungry facilities that power the AI revolution, consume enormous amounts of electricity. Some of the largest facilities use as much power as a small city. Federal authorities ordered a number of these centers to switch to their backup generators, effectively pulling them off the public grid to free up capacity for residential and emergency use. It was a stark reminder that AI does not exist in the cloud. It exists in the physical world, in server farms that need cooling, in power plants that burn fuel, in a grid that is increasingly stressed by the demands of a technology that seems to grow without limit. This is the collision course that many energy experts have been warning about for years. AI's appetite for power is not theoretical. It is here. It is measurable. And this week, it met climate reality head-on. Now let us turn to a problem that sits at the very core of how large language models work, and why so many people are starting to notice the same frustrating pattern. If you have used any of the major AI chatbots recently, you may have noticed something peculiar. Despite being built by different companies, trained on different data sets, and marketed as distinct products with distinct personalities, they tend to give remarkably similar answers. Ask them a controversial question, and you will get a hedged, both sides response. Ask them for creative writing, and you will get the same kind of structure, the same kind of pacing, the same safe choices. This is not a coincidence. It is a structural feature of how these models are trained, and it is becoming one of the most important unsolved problems in the field. A startup this week published a fascinating paper detailing what they call the groupthink problem in large language models. Their argument is straightforward. When you train a model on the vast corpus of human text and then fine-tune it using reinforcement learning from human feedback, you are essentially teaching the model to converge on the most average, most acceptable, most consensus-driven version of human thought. The reward signals in RLHF tend to favor safe, agreeable, well-structured responses. Over millions of training iterations, this produces models that sound polished, but increasingly homogeneous. The startup is developing techniques to introduce what they call cognitive diversity into the training process, essentially rewarding models for disagreeing with each other and for taking positions that fall outside the consensus center. Whether this works at scale remains to be seen, but the diagnosis is correct. We have built machines that are extraordinary at mimicking human. Meanwhile, in the world of enterprise AI, a quieter revolution is taking place. A growing number of manufacturing and logistics companies are applying Lean Six Sigma principles to their AI deployments. This might sound like the most boring sentence ever spoken on this program, but it matters. Lean Six Sigma is a methodology that has been used for decades to reduce waste and improve quality in industrial processes. Now, companies are using it to audit their AI systems, to identify where machine learning models are making predictions that are technically accurate but operationally useless, and to close the gap between what AI can do in a lab and what it can do on a factory floor. This is the unglamorous work of making AI actually useful, and it is where the real economic value will be created over the next decade. That brings us to the industrial AI frontier, and a story that should get far more attention than it does. This week, a major European energy company announced that it had successfully integrated AI-driven predictive maintenance systems directly into its wind turbine operations. The AI does not just monitor the turbines, it runs alongside them, adjusting blade angles in real time, predicting component failures weeks in advance, and optimizing power output based on weather patterns. This is not a chatbot. This is not a productivity tool. This is AI operating at the intersection of software and heavy machinery in conditions where a wrong decision can cost millions of dollars or worse. And it is working. The company reported a 12% increase in energy output and a 30% reduction in unplanned maintenance. This is what operational excellence with AI actually looks like, and it is a preview of where the technology is headed as it moves out of the digital realm and into over on the big tech scoreboard. There were several developments this week that deserve close attention. The biggest story is in Europe, where Google lost its final appeal of a $4.7 billion antitrust fine levied by the European Commission. This case dates back over 15 years, to the early days of Android, when Google was accused of using its mobile operating system to illegally cement its dominance in search. The fine was originally imposed in 2018, and Google has been fighting it through every level of the European court system ever since. This week, the court of last resort upheld the ruling. It is a landmark decision, not just because of the money involved, but because it reinforces the European Union's position as the world's most aggressive regulator of big tech. While the United States has largely adopted a hands-off approach to technology regulation, Europe has been building a legal framework that treats dominant platforms as utilities, subject to strict. In a different corner of the tech world, a fascinating question is emerging around Cursor, the AI-powered code editor that has become one of the most popular development tools in Silicon Valley. Cursor currently operates as a platform that integrates models from both OpenAI and Anthropic, giving developers access to multiple AI systems within a single interface. But Cursor was recently acquired by SpaceX, and that raises a question that no one has a clean answer to yet. Can a tool owned by a company with deep ties to government contracts and national security continue to offer unfettered access to competing AI models? The IDE wars, as they are being called, are not just about which coding assistant is best. They are about who controls the pipeline through which software gets built. If SpaceX's Cursor becomes the dominant development environment, And if it subtly favors one AI provider over another, the downstream effects could reshape the competitive landscape of the entire AI industry. And Meta made a move this week that is easy to overlook but potentially significant. The company launched a new app called Pocket, which integrates its Gizmo AI assistant into a lightweight, mobile-first interface designed for quick task completion. Pocket is not a chatbot. It is a utility, a way to interact with AI for small, practical tasks like scheduling, note-taking, and quick research. The design philosophy is deliberately minimalist, a sharp contrast to the sprawling, feature-heavy approach that Meta has taken with its other AI products. What makes Pocket interesting is the Gizmo integration. Gizmo is Meta's most advanced personalization engine, and placing it inside a utility app gives the company a new avenue to collect behavioral data at scale. Meta is betting that the future of AI is not in grand, general-purpose assistants, but in small, embedded tools that become invisible parts of daily life. It is a bet that Apple and Google have been making for years, and Meta is now Now let us step back from the technology and look at how AI is reshaping culture and business in ways that have nothing to do with code or chips. This week, the entertainment industry delivered a story that could be a movie in its own right. Neon, the independent film studio known for backing bold, unconventional projects, acquired the rights to a film called Artificial, a dramatized account of the early days of OpenAI and the tumultuous leadership of Sam Altman. The film had been in development at Amazon, but Amazon dropped it, reportedly over concerns about the project's commercial viability and potential legal exposure. Neon picked it up within days. The studio clearly believes there is a massive audience for the human drama behind AI, the power struggles, the idealism, the billions of dollars, the philosophical battles about the future of human civilization. Whether that bet pays off will depend on execution, but the fact that this film exists at all tells us something important. In the advertising world, a provocative statement this week from Amy Lanzi, the CEO of Digitas, one of the largest digital advertising agencies in the world. Speaking at a conference in Cannes, Lanzi said bluntly that AI will not save advertising. Her argument was nuanced and worth unpacking. She pointed out that while AI can generate content at scale, optimize targeting, and automate buying, none of that addresses the fundamental crisis in advertising, which is that consumers are increasingly tuning out. Banner blindness is at an all-time high. Ad blockers are installed on hundreds of millions of devices. Younger demographics are migrating to platforms that are structurally hostile to traditional advertising. AI can make advertising more efficient, Lanzi argued, but efficiency is not the problem. Relevance and trust are the problems, and those require human creativity, human judgment, and human connection. It was a sobering message for an industry that has been telling itself that AI, and finally, a story from San Francisco that perfectly captures the absurdity of the current moment. A new report this week found that even tech salaries of $180,000 a year are no longer enough to live comfortably in the city. The culprit is not just the usual suspects of high rent and expensive groceries. It is AI wealth. The wave of AI IPOs and secondary market transactions over the past 2 years has created a new class of paper millionaires in San Francisco. People in their 20s and early 30s who hold equity in companies like Anthropic, Perplexity, and Scale AI, and whose theoretical net worth dwarfs their actual salaries. This wealth is distorting the local economy in ways that go far beyond real estate. Restaurants are pricing themselves for this new clientele. Services are being repositioned for an ultra-wealthy demographic. Even the social fabric of the city is shifting, as the gap between AI wealth and everyone else widens into a chasm. As we close out this week, let us look ahead to what is coming. Next week, the OpenAI stake negotiations are expected to enter a critical phase, with both sides reportedly pushing for a framework agreement before the end of the month. Anthropic is widely expected to release its first fully unrestricted frontier model, a moment that will test the market and the safety community in equal measure. And in Europe, the regulatory environment is heating up. with new draft rules expected that could reshape how AI companies operate across the entire continent. The pace of change is not slowing down. If anything, it is accelerating. If you want to stay ahead of it, make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you do not miss the next episode. Hit that bell, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and we will see you next week.